Hello class 12, welcome to history lecture, and today we will do the topic comparison between Chinese and Indian experience. And there we'll see that this is the last topic of this third chapter, and there it is a case study of China where we have already seen about the Opium War, and we have seen about the different treaties that were signed after the Opium War. So we have seen that after the first Opium War, the Treaty of Nanking was signed, and by these several ports of China was captured and taken away, were open to the British. And then there was a second Opium War. After the second Opium War, there was the Treaty of Tianjin, and the Treaty of Bogue was also signed, through which more ports were taken by the British. Now, these were the two wars through which China fully came under the control of the European powers. Before this, we have seen in case of India. In case of India, what was the condition? In case of India, we have seen there were several warfares in different regions. So, this Indian case, an Indian scenario and Chinese scenario was completely different, where we see that China and India experienced both experienced the rule of the European, but the condition of China and India, or the response of India and China, was completely different. So first we see that is before 1748, let us say, before this time the situation was completely different. In China and in India, we see that Europeans were just coming during this time. So when the Europeans are coming, and during this time, 1748 or before this time, they had the intention of only trade and commerce, and they did not have intention to enter deep inside China or India. They did not have the tendency to politically or administrative control over India or China. Their main motive was trade and commerce. But we see that gradually the European changed their mind, and there was a change in their policy also. And before this time, the Europeans had no military stronghold also in these two countries, in China and in India. So we see that before 1748, the situation was completely different in both the countries. Now we will see that in case of India and China, there was a difference in attitude. Different in attitude means what? Different in attitude of the rulers. We can say that the rulers in both these countries had different attitude towards the European or towards the English. So in case of China, first if we see, in case of China, their attitude was completely indifferent towards the English. They never wanted the English to enter into their land, so they are never giving any kind of freedom to the European traders. They don't want. The China from the very beginning clearly made it clear to the Europeans that we don't want your trading relation. We don't want you to trade in our country. So we see that during when they are entering into China or in India, Chinese attitude was completely different, and China was never supporting the European trade. They were never giving any freedom, never giving any privilege to the Europeans for trading. Whereas in case of India, we see that the rulers are giving permit or the dastak, freedom in trade, and trying to establish trade relation with the European. Like this, we see in India, the Europeans are getting much privilege. Especially we see the East India Company, the British, they are getting huge privilege in India, and they are getting the permit or free trading rights, and they are getting the right to settle over there. They are forming settlement. These type of rights which they are getting from the rulers in India, like Ali Verdi Khan gave them. Then there was Farooq Shah's Farman. Aurangzeb also made trade relation with this British people. So they wanted, Indian rulers wanted to establish a trading relation with the Europeans, whereas we see that the Chinese never wanted to establish any trading relation with the Europeans. Next, we will see the political relation, the political condition. The political condition in both China and India was also very different, because during this time we see that China was like under a central government. A proper government or a proper governing body was there in China. There was a central government and entire China was under one single rule. So in China there was central government, that was their political condition, whereas in case of India there was no central authority. The Mughal rule was declining during this time. The Mughal power was declining during this time, and there was local leaders are rising in different places. So when the English are coming, we have seen in this chapter only, we have read about different warfares. In Mysore they are fighting warfare with the local leaders like Tipu Sultan and Hyder Ali. In Maratha they are fighting war with the Peshwas. In the Sikh region, in Punjab region, they are fighting with the Sikhs. In different region, different small local leaders were there, and there was no unity among them. So political condition in India and China was completely different. In India there was no unity and there was the rise of local leaders. The English people or the English East India Company was fighting with these local leaders. Whereas in China, Chinese like country was completely under a central government. And the central rule was there in China, who made it very clear to the European people that we don't want you. Chinese government told to the people of like British people that we don't need your trade, we don't want to establish trading relation, because China was completely under one ruler, one rule, central authority, which was there, which was not there in India. So politically we see that Chinese and Indian condition was also differing, whereas in China there was central authority. In India there was no central authority. India was under different leaders, different local leaders were there in case of India. So next we see that the position of the European in both the countries were also different. Position of the Europeans in both the countries were also differing. There we see that in case of India, the merchants were getting encouragement from the Indian rulers to trade in India. Whereas in China we have seen that the Chinese emperor, Chinese government has written the letter to the King of England that China has everything that China needs and China don't need to buy anything from outside. This letter was written by the Chinese government to Britain. That means that China never wanted to establish a trading relation with Britain or any other European countries, because China was producing whatever was needed by them. So China had everything they are writing in the letter. Whereas in case of India, we see that Indian market was flooded with British goods. Indian market had huge demand for British goods, and the British were buying raw material from India and they are dumping their finished goods in Indian market. So the position of Europeans in China was completely different, and in India also it was completely different. Whereas in India we see that the foreign merchants were encouraged in India, but in China they were never encouraged, and the foreign merchants became an integral or important part in the Indian economy. So this was one of the major reason that the European could easily establish their rule over India. Whereas in case of China it was not so easy. There was two big warfare. The Opium Wars were real big. It was against two government, like British government and the Chinese government. Whereas in case of India, the wars were always with local leaders. Another difference is the exchange value. Difference in exchange value. Difference in exchange value, there what we see is that the European people, when they are buying anything from China, like Europeans, Chinese people were not buying anything from European, but the European were buying silk, tea, this kind of things they were buying from China. So when they are buying from China, how they will pay them back? They are not, China is not buying anything from the Europeans. So in this case, what happened is the Chinese are giving expensive metal, they have to give to China. The Europeans have to give. In case of India, this was not the case. In case of India, they are buying raw material from India, and in return, they are giving all the finished goods they are selling in Indian market and giving to India. So Indian market had huge demand for the foreign products. So India was buying many things from Europe. So this was exchange. There was exchange. Whatever India was, they are taking from India, and their finished products they are giving to India. It was loss for India because finished goods they were selling in India at a very high price, whereas their raw material they are buying from India at a very cheap price. So in India it was a complete profit for them, for the British people. For the European it was a high profit in Indian market, whereas in Chinese market they had to give expensive metal, and it was Chinese trade was not very profitable for the European. So in this was the situation, and these are the comparison between Chinese and Indian experience. And there we can say that China was much self-dependent and independent rather than India. But ultimately we see by the Opium War, Britain was militarily very strong, and through the Opium War ultimately China was completely brought under the control of the English East India Company, or under the British government rather, not in English East India Company. Whereas in India we see English East India Company has ruled for many years. Then after 1857 the rule of the British government was established. In case of China, after the Opium War, straight away the British government started establishing their control. Company rule was not there in China. So these are the basic differences and comparisons between the Chinese experience and the Indian experience, and this is very important also. So this is a case study of China, and with this we come to the end of this chapter. Thank you.